Here we go, guys. Are you ready? We are getting ready to install a 2-inch Skyjacker Lift Kit on our brand new Jeep Willys JK. Yep, you see it right there behind me. I love this Jeep. It's the right color. It's awesome. All Jeeps should be yellow. We're going to be putting, again, a 2-inch Skyjacker spring spacer lift kit. We're going to do some other upgrades. The goal is to get 35-inch tires under this vehicle and not have any rubbing. I've already got the wheels. I'm really excited to share that with you too, and I will be bringing you guys along. I'm an amateur. I have no experience doing this, and if I can do it, anybody can do it, and I am looking forward to showing you how to do this and all of the wonderful pitfalls that you can avoid in your own install as you try this at your own garage. All right, so here we go. Very first problem already encountered. During the unboxing, the Skyjacker Lift Kit did not come with instructions. So a simple search online, download and print those out. I'll include a link in the description as well as the actual part number and a link to where you can get the kit that I have purchased. Here's what I have so far. So right now I have all the hardware, the bump stops, the bump stop brackets, the front and rear coil spring spacers, as well as the black Max shocks that come with the kit. I also went ahead and purchased from Rugged Ridge for about 10 bucks or so an exhaust extension kit. From my reading, that we may need that when we actually install the lift to ensure that we don't allow the exhaust to contact the drive shaft housing. We don't want to melt anything under there. So this is just in case. We'll put it on if we need to once we get the kit installed. So that being said, let me go get my instructions that I am in process of printing off, and we will get started in actual installation. And I'm back, and unfortunately I did not record the installation, or at least the recording didn't work. But we have got the 2-inch Skyjacker Lift Kit installed. We've also got the front shocks installed, and we've even gone so far as to add in the Smitty-built tubular side steps, just because we've now got about 2 inches of lift, and we're going to add another 2.5 inches of tire on top of that. So we'll need a little bit of a side step rather than the original rock rails. So a couple of notes to make on the installation. When you're putting in the rear or the front spacers, make sure to seat those correctly before you lift up the axle. I had mine a little cockeyed, so to speak, and had to drop the axle again and reset it. So do make sure that you've got all that straight. Make sure that you tighten up all of the bolts. The entire process from end to end, it took me right at about 9 hours, which again, I'm an amateur, and it's funny because the installation instructions that I did find from Skyjacker say that you know, it's a pretty difficult install, and the TerraFlex leveling kit, which does basically exactly the same thing, says that it's a super simple install. Well, I guess it is if you have the right materials. A couple of things that you're going to want to make sure that you know. One, you're going to need more than one jack. You're going to need some decent jack stands, and you're going to need something that can jack up the front or the rear of the vehicle pretty high in order to be able to raise the frame high enough off the ground that you can then drop the axle low enough to pull out the springs, both front and rear. My problem was actually in the rear. The front of the Jeep had no real problem setting some relatively small jack stands with some extensions on those, which again, probably not the safest way to do it, but certainly got it on there. Once we got it on, got the front jacked up, wasn't really that big of a deal. Also, if you pay attention to any other videos that you'll find on YouTube, that the front track bar, taking it apart really doesn't matter how low the axle is. You can get that apart with a little bit of arm muscle, get that apart, no problem. Getting it back together though is pretty difficult if it's sitting in the air and the axle's at full droop. You're going to want to make sure that you put the wheels and tires back on it and set it back on the ground, and then you may even, what I had to do is actually jack up one side of the Jeep in order to get the track bar arm to fit back through the holes that are there, both front and rear. In the rear I had to jack up the opposite side, and the front I had to jack up this side that the connection point was on. your mileage on that may vary, and we'll leave that up to you, but just do keep in mind you're going to need at least 2 jacks. At least I needed 2 jacks and 2 jack stands. I would have liked to have 4 jack stands just for a little extra safety, but we did get it on there. And you're going to make sure that you lift it up high enough, again, that you can lower that the springs, lower the axle low enough that the springs can come out. And remember that you're going to be putting a 2-inch spacer in there. So when you put the 2-inch spacer in, you're going to have that axle at least 2 inches lower than it was when you pulled them out in order to get it to go back in. So you're going to want a lot of space. Make absolutely sure that you check all of the brake lines, all of the hoses, anything that's connected to that axle that you're going to make sure is disconnected. Although the hoses and wires and so forth, you don't have to disconnect the control arms, but I had an extra tube in there that I missed, and it got pretty taut before I realized it, and was able to jack the axle back up and disconnect it properly. Do make sure of that. And also, just one other note, I'm going to show you here in just a second, the brake line brackets that it says to remove. There are 2 sets of brackets in the front especially. You're going to make sure that you undo both sets of brackets. One is actually on the side of the Jeep under the fender. One is actually on the wheel, or the axle itself. And so I'll show you that real quick. See if you can see under here. You probably can't. The front top one bracket is here. The other bracket is actually down. I can get up under here to show you. One bracket is actually down here, and you have to disconnect both brackets in order for it to actually work. I'll actually try to get some still shots of exactly what those brackets look like so that you know where they are. Both of them are just one 10 millimeter screw. You just take that out, and or bolt rather, and you take that out. And then the bracket is actually on the axle. It actually has a pivot point that you can just pull that out, and it'll just hang there by the. You don't have to disconnect the brake lines, but it'll hang there. And one last point of note, that I likely will be getting some brake line extensions. The brake lines that are in there at full droop are very tight. They will work for now, especially driving on the road, which is mostly what I'm going to be doing in the near term. But you will want to replace those, or I'm going to replace the brake lines with some brake line extensions, just to make sure that I have plenty of extra space in the event that I do get those axles fully articulated. Best of luck to you. Also, again, going to post some screenshots or some photos of all the different pieces that we put on, and hope to see you back again soon. Thank you much. Oh yeah, bonus material number 1. I actually have the front shocks on. I do not have the back shocks on, and the reason that I don't is because when I pressed in the bushing into the back shock for the top mount, I actually tore the rubber bushing. So I'm going to have to get another one before I can put those on. The front to press on, so normally you press in these bushings with some kind of press. I don't have a press, again, amateur here. I used a vise, and for the lower connection points on those shocks, it's really not a big deal. You take the rubber bushing, you put the little metal grommet piece in there, and then just kind of use the vise as a press to press it in. Just make sure that you get everything straight and go slow, and it will go in there. And I've had lots of success in doing that in the past. For those top pieces, they're a little odd shaped. So once I get a replacement bushing, then I will show you how to do that, and hopefully that will help you, for those folks that don't have the right tools, to install something like that.